Welcome back to Columbus Brick by Brick, the podcast where we uncover the people, projects, and ideas shaping the future of our city, one conversation at a time. I'm your host, Jon Styer, broker and owner of Styer Real Estate Professionals. And each week, we sit down with local leaders, business owners, and community change makers who are laying the foundation for a better Columbus. Today's guest is a real estate powerhouse and a true visionary when it comes to building both businesses and communities. Misty Linn, founder of Core Realty Collection. Misty's story is one of passion turned to purpose, starting from casual interest in open houses and evolving into the creation of a real estate company that champions inclusivity, mentorship, and meaningful impact. In this episode, Misty shares the pivotal moments that defined her journey, how she built a strong team culture, and the ways she's navigated the ever-changing Columbus market. So we're going to dive into her leadership philosophy, her approach to empowering both owner-occupants and seasoned investors, and the personal growth that's come from nearly 2 decades in the industry. Plus, she's going to open up about some of the lessons that she's learned, who's inspired her, and the legacy that she hopes to leave here in Columbus, not just in real estate, but in the city itself. So whether you're in real estate or you're just looking for some entrepreneurial inspiration, this conversation delivers insight, energy, and a whole lot of heart. So let's get into it. Well, Misty, thank you so much for being here on the podcast. I'm really excited to have a chance to chat with you and learn about you and your business and businesses and your success that you've fostered over these years. So thank you again, and let's dig into it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. In doing some research for this podcast, I happened on a funny story of how you got into real estate. That you were touring some open houses, and that kind of got the whole ball rolling for you. Tell me about, first, if you could share that story, and then also how that led you to where you are now in real estate and in business, and just kind of catch us up.
Yeah. So, my career started, honestly, with a friend who was moving from Chicago to Columbus, looking at condos. I was touring those condos with her, and I was very unhappy in the job that I was in. And it, being unhappy in your day-to-day when, that alarm's going off and you're hitting snooze to the very last second, it's like you're not happy with something, right? So for me, it was, I have to do something different. Mm-hmm. I have to get out of this. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Went to college. Initially, I wanted to be a police officer because I wanted to help people and I wanted every day to be different. Ended up in a school system, working for Franklin County MRDD, teacher's aide to kids with behavioral disorders and autism. Mm. And doing that for 4 years, it was like, this can't be it, right?
Right.
So it's a very, very tough job. Kudos to everyone that is out there fighting that fight, because it's, those kids being integrated into regular ed classrooms it's a very difficult job.
Yeah.
So, I met her, my friend's broker, and great guy is Bruce Dooley.
Okay.
He's still in the business now.
Sure.
Yep. At that time, he had been in the business for 23 years. So I just started going to his open houses and talking to him. And he's like, I see you more than I see half my agents. What are you doing? And mm-hmm. I said, I just think it's cool. And he said, well, you should go get licensed. And instantly I was like, yeah, I've already looked. And it's kind of have to be fancier than I am to even get started in real estate. And it was like, I saw he drove a Mercedes. He, dressed in a suit, and I'm coming from Akron on a teacher salary. So I just felt like I wasn't there. Mm-hmm. And he was a person that encouraged me to get there and to take that leap. And my partner at the time was very encouraging as well. So it was just those two people that were pushing me to say, life is too short. Go do what makes you happy. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even know if real estate would make me happy. But I can tell you that first transaction when, selling a condo on High Street, you have both sides of it. And it was a rocky transaction for sure, but it was the freedom of that transaction and I just felt so different in that role, being a real estate agent. And I truly, that summer of 2006, I did not coach Special Olympics. I did nothing, but I was like, I'm going to be a real estate agent and I'm going to make this work.
You went all in.
I went all in. Bought a blazer,
Looking good, I'm sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really I wanted it to work so much that failure was never an option.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, I mean, my parents were like, what the hell are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
It's, you have benefits, you're comfortable, you're in a great school district, you should never leave this job. I was just so unhappy though. So. Yeah.
Well, that is a big piece and a lot of people that sit here and talk to me about how they got into real estate. I mean, everyone's story is different, but I hear a lot of the same things. It's like, I wasn't happy. I felt like limited or capped or just, I didn't know what was happening next, and this can't be it.
Right.
And that's, I think, a lot of people that get into this business, or even just with an entrepreneurial mindset, feel. And I mean, I can speak from my experience too. I was working a W-2 job for 10 years before I got into real estate.
Yep.
And it's like, I could never look back.
Yeah.
Like I don't want that feeling of I don't know what's next, or I don't know how I can take it to the next level because, it's up to somebody else.
Yeah.
Half the time.
Yep.
You mentioned one thing that I would love to hear a little bit more about, in that it sounds like you found a mentor right away. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I always say I think is such an important thing in this business to have, because it's so hard to get into.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that experience that you had both on both ends as receiving mentorship, but also how you mentor people today?
Mm-hmm. For sure. So, my mentor when I very first started was that encouragement from Bruce to say, you can do this and get out of your own way. Just go take the test and get licensed. And I'll help you along the way. My other real pivotal moment in my career was, getting licensed in 2006, and then you have 2008, 2009.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
The downturn of the market. And then that was another moment of like, maybe everybody was right. Maybe I can't do this. And maybe I should have stayed at the job that was, secure. I was with Keller Williams at the time. And, when the market started to shift, I felt, I have to have a bigger company behind me. Bruce didn't even have a website just because he had been in the business for so long. So downturn of the market, I have to have a bigger company backing me. I have to have a website. I have to set up all of these things. And I took a course through my mentor at Keller Williams, who I was almost thinking about getting out of the business. My parents owned a bar in Cuyahoga Falls. I was like, look, I could go back to, the Akron area. I could run their bar, and that's just what I could do. And it would at least keep some income coming in.
Right. Everyone's drinking during the recession, right?
Everyone. Yeah. Right. The bar's super busy.
Right.
And, Kate Wilkes, she said to me, I want you to take this course. It's called Bold. I want you to take this. I will sponsor you for it. When you do your first 2 transactions, pay me back. And I said, all right, I'll do it. She's like, I don't want you to be so beat down that you're getting out of the business. And that, again, shifted my mindset on just, you can do it differently, right? Okay, real estate it's a lot slower. A lot of people are losing a lot of money. Foreclosures and short sales was a thing that just kept coming up. Met an attorney, met a guy who ran short sales. I teamed up with them, and I started running short sales and foreclosures. So in that moment, I pivoted in my business to, again, make it work.
Right.
Always following the mindset, failure is not an option. Let's pivot and see where we need to take it.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you saw yourself through that. Take me from then until now. Because now you have your own team, you have your own brokerage, you are doing so many things. Walk me through the steps that got you through that recession, and and to build up the business that you now are thriving in.
Yeah, so for me, it was looking at real estate differently. When I started to run the short sales and foreclosures, I thought, well, the real estate just isn't, putting people in your car and looking at houses on weekends and nights. And it was a numbers game to me. And I was like, wow, and I knew a lot of the markets that my investors and stuff were going into were Old Town East. So you drive around, you look at these big, beautiful brick homes and you're like, this is not going to stay dilapidated.
Yeah.
Like this area is going to come back. So it was a moment where also I took the opportunity to work with investors, look at real estate differently. It could, the numbers thing, it was very fascinating for me to look at numbers and be like, okay, if you bought it for this, you put this much into it, and then you sold it for this much, that's a good income.
Yeah.
And then led me into working with investors, but doing some of the design stuff because, investors very numbers. It's all
Oriented.
about the money, all about the bottom line. And contractor is there to do a job. They're there to put your flooring in, your light fixtures. I don't really care what those look like. So when I would go back to these properties, I'd be like, oh, what the hell happened in here, guys?
Yeah.
Right.
Where's the disconnect?
Yeah. Where's what? And he's like, well, you said this, after renovation value. I'm like, I did based off of my vision. But if that vision's only living in your head and you're not verbalizing that vision and you're coming back to the property to sell it, you're misaligned there with your investor.
Right.
So I started doing design work for investors and giving them a whole, selection sheet of finishes. So that's flooring, that's light fixtures, paint colors. So it all comes together. And then when I go to sell the house, it's like, oh, we actually have a product we can put on the market here at this value. So it was very important for me to stay involved and feel like a partner to the investor.
Yeah.
So that was a big pivot in my business in, the downturn of the market, was to stay relevant and working with investors that are doing multiple transactions.
So you're kind of almost project managing or helping with the design to make sure that the investment that they invested in through you sees itself through the finish line when they go to sell it again.
Yeah.
And did you get into investing on your own during that time, or tell me about that?
So my first property I bought was in 2011. And I was sitting at a closing table, and the lender that lent to that project was there. And she said to me, I never understood why you're not doing this yourself. And I said, to me, it's a money thing. And I'm just afraid to invest all of my money. And, thinking like, who's going to lend to me? And she's like, we would lend to you. So I was like, all right, well, I'll look for a deal. And if it works out, great. And I did. I started with that. Fund That Flip was the first lender to fund my deal. And it snowballed from there. When you're sitting at the closing table and your investor's making $60,000 on the deal, you're making 3%.
Right.
It's like,
wait a minute.
I have been at this project how many times, saw it from start to finish, helped you find the property, helped you sell the property. So it was taking back that, control and doing it for myself.
And just recapturing some of the value of your work.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. And so you still do a lot of flips. Is that true?
I do a lot of flips. I do a lot more holds right now.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Just, I drive past places that I've sold, and you made 30,000 off of it, and I'm like looking at the numbers, I'm like, ooh, I can make 75 off of that.
Right.
If I'd held it.
Right. The appreciation is the real wealth building.
Yes.
And flipping, it can be lucrative, but it's also can be just a job.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people that really are in real estate investing for the long haul, they're looking to build wealth.
Yeah.
Long term. And so when did you make that pivot or that realization that like, actually, I want to be holding some of these properties as well?
I've been holding probably for about 5 years now, holding my properties that just make sense number wise. It's some of the properties you purchase, I would say now in the market that we're in, I prefer to hold. So yeah. And when DSCR product came out, it's like, wow, this is a really good option for investors to hold.
Sure.
So when the lending products started to come together, it's like, all right, this makes a lot more sense.
There's some opportunity.
There's opportunity for sure.
Yeah, because you're going to get a 30-year
Yep.
rate term and just be able to. It gets tough for investors when you really want to scale it up to be able to continue to get loans that work and on and on. So yeah, I totally hear you on that.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your sales business and you work with investors. Do you strictly work with investors? Do you work with owner occupants? And also tell me a little bit about your team and the agents that you have working with you.
Yeah. So I don't strictly work with investors. Actually, one lesson that COVID taught me was to scale back on working with a lot of investors.
And what was the reason for that?
It was just a time suck for me. You know, I'm constantly just in the grind, answering every call. You know, out of state investor, can you go check on this? Sure. Can you do this? Yeah. And I was running.
Yeah.
And, you know,
boots on the ground can be a lot of work.
Boots on the ground, a lot of work. And it was constant to where I wasn't even realizing how much time and effort I was putting into this stuff until COVID allowed me to. Nope, you got to sit at home. And you got to sit with yourself. And when you start to sit with yourself, you're like, man, that dude has called me like 4 times, and the world is shutting down.
Right.
He does not give a shit.
Right.
So it's like, it was when those people started to show up on my phone, and I physically felt like, I have to talk to this person. It's like, why am I working with this person? Why am I exhausting myself to run this rat race when the realization is I don't need them. They need me.
Yep.
And if we don't have a mutual respect in that, then we're just not going to work together any longer. And when I started to fire some of those investors, it was, and I say fire, but it was a point in my career where I'm like, look, I don't have to have these phone calls with you, and we don't have to keep having these conversations. I respect you. You run your business differently than I do, and that is all okay. You're still going to do your thing. I'm still going to do my thing.
Yeah.
We're just not going to do it together.
Totally.
Yeah. There's
so much power in making that realization, and I think that a lot of it can take a while, and some people never get there.
Yeah.
But the self-empowerment that comes from realizing, like, I get to decide who I work with.
Yep.
And just the kind of the mental health load that is released a little bit from putting yourself in that space.
Yeah.
And then operating accordingly, where, hey, I decide my fate, my business, who I work with, who I want to work with. Yeah. And I think that when we boil it down to that too, like, it can be more successful. Because I'm not spinning my wheel. It's like 80-20.
Yeah.
Like, let me put 80% of my effort into the 20% that's actually what I want to do and is successful for me.
Yeah. And that's truly, I felt more successful than I ever had just working with the people I wanted to work with. And it was enjoyable again. When you start to lose the joy in something that you do and it starts to become a project, then it's not worth it anymore.
Yeah.
So.
Completely. Well, good for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
One thing that I think is very interesting about you is that real estate is not all you do. You are a business owner. Tell me about some of the other stuff that you're doing.
So, going through the downturn of the market, when I saw people losing the most money and saw them really losing everything that they had one stream of income. So they were just in real estate. So for me, it's like, okay, let's diversify. Let's diversify where your income's coming in. So I own District West, and that was very much a need in our community. It's a LGBTQ+ space that is a safe space for all people. Again, in COVID, you're telling people to stay at home. Maybe their home is not comfortable. So it was a space that I felt passionate about opening. So I own that space. I'm launching another restaurant here in July.
Congrats.
Thanks. And just diversifying your income, keeping it busy. I started a construction company that is just, somewhere where I looked at my business, I'm like, I'm losing so much money in the construction side of this, and it's taking so long for contractors just to, hire a GC. And it's like, you tell me when we start the project it's going to be done in 3 months, and we're going into month 5.
Yeah.
And I don't see the light. So looking at the money aspect of where I'm losing, and I'm like, I'm just going to bring this in house. So my brother-in-law works for me as a GC. My dad works for me as a GC, and they run the construction side of things.
I love that. The vertical integration, when you can achieve that and it marries so well,
yeah,
that brings me a lot of joy to hear that. I didn't even know you did that. So really cool, really cool. Now, you've got a lot going on. How do you balance all this? Because you've got people under you, you've got multiple businesses. Tell me a little bit, like, do you have work-life balance? I know, or like I've heard people say that doesn't exist. Tell me about your life in that aspect.
Yeah. I get this question a lot. I truly, absolutely love what I do. I could talk about real estate all day.
Yeah.
And
me too.
Yeah. And it is not it's not a bad thing. People are like, oh, I hate to bother you with work. And like, this isn't work to me. This is what I love. It's what I do. It's what I'm passionate about. So I think when you get to that point in your life, and I know I have so many friends that are just miserable, whether they're miserable at their home life or they're miserable at the work life, they don't want to talk about work. Where when we get to that point in life where this isn't work any longer, so the work-life balance for me is I just do what I love to do, and I can bring people in that love it and are passionate about it as well. Whether that is construction, whether that you want to be a real estate agent, you want to bartend. I mean, I have a little jobs everywhere for everybody, but it's what I'm passionate about, and if I'm not busy, I'm bored. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, I doubt you're bored.
No, I'm not bored. I'm not bored. No.
Well, good. Well, let's zoom out a little bit. I'd love to hear kind of your take on the current state of the Columbus market. I mean, you started in 2006. We're now 2025, so you're going on 20 years.
Yep.
You've been through some highs and some lows.
Yeah.
What do you think about our current market, and where do you see Columbus going in the next 1 through to 5 years?
Yeah, I think Columbus, we're in a special spot in Columbus. I truly believe that.
I agree.
I mean, even go to the outskirts of Columbus, it's a little bit slower. The markets are a little slower. It feels a little bit more desolate, but we are in a special space in Columbus that it's thriving. It's, there's 12 cranes in the air currently right now in downtown Columbus. So we're a moving business. I feel alive in Columbus. My business feels alive in Columbus. When I watch national news and listen to national news, it's like, wow. And then I'm like, am I being bamboozled? Should I feel some type of way? Right?
Yeah.
But I'm like, we are in a good spot here in Columbus. Our market's growing. Prices are increasing.
Yep.
The development is happening.
Yeah.
So our future of Columbus as a whole, I think is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I was recently in Chicago, and just walking around, it's like, kind of feels a little bit like Columbus,
I know. It's crazy. I mean, I kind of view Columbus as kind of like a beacon here in the Midwest.
For sure.
And I'm really excited about the growth that we're experiencing, and I think is going to continue. And I hear you exactly. It seems like, there's all this doom and gloom on, where the market's going to go nationally. And it's like, I'm not feeling that here.
I'm not. No, same.
I'm not feeling that. Like in our management company, we house so many traveling tradespeople.
Yeah.
They're all here to work, to build, to grow this city.
Yep.
And that's my reality. Yep. That's what I'm seeing is growth and excitement. Growth,
movement, excitement, and it's the synergy around Columbus it's intoxicating. I've traveled and gone other places, and being from Akron, even going to Akron, it feels a little doom and gloomy. but Columbus we're thriving.
We really are.
And developing and moving.
And you're a big piece of it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit more about you. Tell me about some personal growth that you've experienced through your journey in real estate, and how has that affected or influenced your professional life?
I would say the biggest personal growth for me is my family. I moved my mother to Columbus about 2.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was for separation with her husband. And, I moved her here to be closer to me because she was having health issues. So moving her here, I was a year into that. I moved my sister, brother-in-law here, and my nieces and nephews here. They now live in Canal Winchester.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then, 2 years later, moved my dad down here and his wife down here. Dad's running the construction company.
Mm-hmm.
So personal growth would be for me to show my family the opportunity that I've created, and and that's through real estate.
Yeah. So
my mom and dad both live in one of my, separately, two of my separate rentals.
Mm-hmm.
And that was only made possible through real estate.
Right.
So, growing up in Akron, and mom had me very early age. We grew up together. So it's like showing her the opportunities too. Like it's not just about, this small little city. It's a bigger picture, and we can go on vacations and we can do things. And, that's really been my personal growth. And I would say it stays true to my why too. My nieces and nephew, they're my reason why I keep going and keep, to leave them with something that they have, and, take over the businesses.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier in the power of real estate and the wealth building and the generational wealth that can come from it. That is achievable.
Yes.
And you can do it. Mm-hmm. That's one thing that I try to instill in people that I work with and mentor is like, you can do this.
Yeah.
This is possible. No one's reinventing wheels here.
Right.
It's hard work, and it's trying, and it's failing, and it's continuing. Mm-hmm. And if you push through, you can be successful.
Yeah.
And you've done that, and you're living proof. Mm-hmm. Not to say you failed. I mean, but I'm sure that there's been moments, there's been obstacles that you've experienced. Does any come to mind an obstacle that you experienced that you had to see yourself through and come out of the other side?
Oh, for sure. I mean, that goes to partnering with the wrong partners. When you're so busy and you are a yes man, you're saying the yes to some of the wrong things sometimes. And some of those wrong things are business partners. It's very easy to create an LLC and operating agreement.
Yep.
It's the long-term relationship of that LLC and operating agreement, and who are you partnering with, and who are you entrusting with your business. When you become successful, everybody wants a piece of that. And, being a giving person and, seeing the opportunity that somebody else you could partner with them, and, it feels better to do it together. And, I had a partnership that we were all in. I mean, we had 12 houses together. We had LLCs set up. We had bank accounts. We were in it. And, unfortunately he was not a good guy.
No.
Yeah. So that was something that I had to navigate, and I had to navigate it quickly because we were so entrenched together. And that his daughter was working for me, so.
Oh, wow.
It was a kick in the gut.
Yeah.
Because you trust that person's your friend. We talked multiple times a day. And then it's like, wow, I had to grieve that relationship. I had to grieve that part of the business. I had to let go of that. I had to change it and grieve that trust that I entrusted somebody. taking a step back, taking your time with transactions, taking your time with those relationships, and really vetting those relationships is a major lesson that I learned.
How do you do that? How do you vet a relationship like that? What was a lesson you learned from that experience that now you put into practice?
Yeah, with that particular instance, I don't know how I could have, any more than I did, because we had been friends for quite some time.
Yeah.
It's just an unfortunate thing that he got caught, and I don't think he thought he was going to get caught. And it's, sometimes you can't avoid that. Sometimes you don't know that. But I can tell you that if maybe I would have slowed down, I wouldn't have had so much involved, and slowed down, thought about it, and having the confidence too in yourself that you can do it on your own.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a partner in every aspect of your business.
Sure.
It's okay to, no, this is mine.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it, and I'm going to do it by myself.
Yeah.
You can still have people involved, of course. I have a whole team underneath me. It's absolutely no way I could do what I'm doing.
Right.
But I don't have to financially partner with them,
Completely. And I think that as you build a career and you establish yourself, it gets easier to not have to lean on other people, because now you've been there, you've done that. You know the ups and the downs, the highs and the lows, the hows and the how-nots.
Yep.
But getting started in this business, it can be tough.
Yeah.
And, a lot of it can sometimes be trial by fire. And that calls back to my opinion that a mentor is so important.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself mentoring people in this business?
Yeah. I had a whole mentorship program set up.
Cool.
So I did online mentorship programs. I've done one-on-one mentorships. I've even partnered with people that have been like, hey, I have, X amount of dollars I want to invest it, but I want to see the whole transaction through with somebody that has experience. So there's different ways to mentor somebody through, what we've already done because we've been in the business for so long. I wish I would have had a mentor a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coaching, mentoring, I think can also be very fulfilling.
For sure.
Helping people, that's one of the things I enjoy most about real estate.
Yep.
And it's not just clients either. It's people that want to learn. And if you want it, I want it for you too.
Yeah.
But one thing in that space is that you can never want it for somebody.
Yeah.
And that goes for clients as well as maybe someone that's new, like a newer investor or agent or something. They got to want it more than you do because you can't want it for them.
Yeah. That was also a lesson that was learned too, is I see the potential in people. I'm like, no, you would be great at this. And then you're their number one cheerleader and they're still at home. And I'm like, what are you doing? But I had all these dreams for you.
Right.
And they're not dreaming it themselves.
Right. And for people that work really hard, it's like, and I talk to people every week that are in that same boat. Like they're hard workers and they're where they are because of that.
Yeah.
And it's like, why aren't you doing this too?
Yeah.
And that's hard to understand sometimes.
Yeah. And it's okay to let people live their comfortable lifestyles.
Completely.
They're just fine doing what they're doing. Let them do what they want to do. I have, my brother's great at what he's doing, and I'm like, but you'd be so great at this. And he's good doing what he's doing.
If he's happy,
he's happy. Yeah.
Then you're happy for him, right?
Yeah.
So what's next for you? What do you see in the next couple of years for Misty?
Next couple of years, I would say still growing my portfolio, growing the brokerage. It's something that I've shifted focus on growing the brokerage because I do think that we have something special to offer agents. And I think the restaurant business is something I really love. And I sat with that for a little bit. I'm like, why do I like this so much? But people are enjoying themselves. You know, they're out to dinner, they're eating good food, and they're socializing, and it's a feel good space. And I love that.
I love that too. That's great.
I just love to walk in and be like, wow, they're having a really good time. You know, they're everything that has been bad about your day or bad, like a death in the family, sickness, illness, whatever it is like you're out, you're with your friends, you're socializing, and you're having a good time. And
you're making a choice to do it too.
Yes, you're choosing to do that. So. And
I mean, I've never owned a restaurant, but I can imagine it's probably a good feeling that they're choosing to do that at your restaurant. Yeah,
yeah, and it's a safe space for all people, and I think that's important. Especially in today's political environment of you feel safe here, and I will ensure that your safety is always protected.
That is super important.
Yeah.
That is super important. Yep. Someone just getting into real estate, what's some advice that you give or you have given to achieve maybe a modicum of the success that you have?
I would say align yourself with a mentor, and that could be anything. That could be another real estate agent that's just doing real estate, buying and selling. You know, align yourself with somebody and just attach yourself to them, right? So the way I learn best is doing it, and I think most entrepreneurs, we just do it.
Yeah. Move forward sloppy.
Yeah.
Just get it done.
Get it done.
Yeah.
Right. You're not going to have all the answers. It's not a textbook job at all. You're going to have different days, and that's okay. You're going to feel like a failure a lot of the times because, you know, no one's calling you. It took me years in the month of January or February just to realize, Misty, you're not out of business. It's just slow.
Right. Right. It comes back.
It comes back.
Yeah.
People are going to start calling you again. But align yourself with somebody that maybe you look up to and that you really truly vibe with. There's all different agents out there. There's all different personalities. There's all different ways to run your business. Make sure you align with that person.
There's a million different ways to be successful in real estate.
Absolutely.
Find yours.
Yep.
Yeah. I agree with you. That's the same advice that I give.
Yeah.
Find someone that can mentor you, that can guide you, that's maybe been there. They don't have to be, you know, the top dog. They just have to be a little bit further than you.
Yeah.
You know, and you have to provide value to them, and they'll provide value back to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm happy to hear you say it. And honestly, whenever I hear it, I'm like, thank you.
Yeah.
Because that is the truth.
Yep.
What you personally, what do you see? What would you like your legacy to be in Columbus? You know, when you hang up the cleats, what do you want people to be able to have said about you?
That I led with integrity, and I led with a heart that was wanting to help other people. And I truly do believe in the city of Columbus. I do believe in our development. I believe in minorities, and fairness to minorities, and fairness to groups that are not seen by everyone as equals. And I want people to know that we are all human, and period. You may not like the way someone else is living, the way someone else dresses, but we're all human, and we should treat each other as such. Well, thank you for sharing that. And it is spot on, and it's crazy that has to be said. Yeah. But, you know, here we are. Yep. Well, thank you so much for being here. Yeah. I really appreciate having had the conversation. If our listeners and followers want to find you, where can they find you? Instagram is great. And that's Misty Linn Realtor on Instagram, and just my first and last name on Facebook. And Lynn is Linn. A lot of people throw Y in there and I can't find you. Get a little crazy. Right. Yeah. Social media is big for me. Good. So I do a lot on social media. And you do, and I love seeing your stuff. So I want to call that out too, because it's fun, it's interesting and enjoyable. So yeah, thank you. Keep it up. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks. Well, again, thank you so much for being here. It was a lot of fun, and I look forward to continuing to watch you succeed and watching your social media too. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you.
So that's a wrap on this episode of Columbus Brick by Brick, where we're all about uncovering the people, projects, and ideas shaping Columbus. I want to give a huge thank you to Misty Linn for sharing her story. From the early days to launching Core Realty Collective to the leadership, resilience, and the community focus that continues to define her work today. Her insights on navigating challenges, investing in mentorship, and building a legacy in Columbus, I think left us all inspired. So if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, or share it with someone who you think might need to hear Misty's story. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Columbus Brick by Brick, and visit our website at columbusbrickbybrick.com for more. And we'll be back next week with another conversation that's going to build on the vision and energy driving our city forward. So until then, remember, every brick has a story, and we're here to tell it. We'll see you next time.